California, Texas, Louisiana, Florida. So if you're in the southern half of the U.S., you might Google what the numbers are in your area. You might think about getting another vaccination, a booster for it in the next month or two.
And there's the major news coming out about tariffs. You mentioned tariffs earlier, but I see that Governor Hochul in New York is reminding New York farmers and producers of their approaching deadline to apply for the $30 million tariff relief program. So I think the deadline is in August 11th, so you only got a few days. So she was reminding the folks to apply for the Agricultural Resiliency Against Tariffs program. And like I said, the application is due if you're there in the New York area on Tuesday, April 11th by 11:59 p.m. So that gives you about 3 days to get your application in and everything like that. So
Yeah, I don't know how that works or what it is. So Trump imposed tariffs beginning in April of last year. Then eventually the Supreme Court ruled that those tariffs were illegal. Trump returned $100 billion to corporations such as Apple, who had to raise their prices to cover the tariffs. But consumers are not seeing any of that.
And I think that's why different agencies in different states are doing this, because apparently applications for dairy, livestock, specialty crops, and aquaculture producers are available right now, and farmers are encouraged to begin the application process early to ensure all parts are completed and submitted by the deadline. I mean, you only got like a few days, but the governor said of that state, "I'm proud that our agricultural resiliency against tariff programs will provide much needed relief to New York farmers who feed our communities. The program application was created so it can be completed easily and without layers of burdensome paperwork, encouraging farmers to apply for the payment." So apparently this is her attempt in New York, and I think other states have done it as well, to alleviate some of the things that are going on with their people that have been impacted. I'm sure that probably Detroit's got something for their automobile manufacturers and stuff like that. So it looks like these individual states are trying to come up with ways to alleviate some of the pain of the tariffs.
Okay. Let's see what gas is at today.
Where is gas?
Gas is $4.04 a gallon. So it's slowly getting closer to dropping under $4 a gallon. This is day 98 or 99 of under Trump, of gas being more than $4 a gallon national average. Under Biden, I think gas was more than $4 a gallon for something like 154 days. But Trump hasn't been president as long as Biden was. So we'll see.
That is of yet. But I want to come back to tariffs. What is it with President Trump and tariffs? Because I'm seeing that yesterday he signed a proclamation that would create a minimum price for imports on polysilicon and impose a 15% tariff on products made with the material in an effort to support domestic production of a key component in semiconductors and solar panels. So the tariff,
for the most part, as I said, since he introduced tariffs 15, 16 months ago, the U.S. job creation is down by like 88%. That over the past 15 years, the U.S. has averaged nearly, if you don't take the COVID year, the U.S. has averaged adding 200,000 jobs a month. And we've added 336,000 jobs in 15 months, which averages out to 22,000 jobs a month, which is 22,000 is way less than 200,000. Tariffs have been terrible for jobs. They haven't made the U.S. any money. They're a tax on consumers, right? So the U.S. made $100 billion through tariffs. But all that money had to be, was by the courts. The court said it has to be returned, and the money went back to the corporations, but not to the consumers. So it didn't help provide income to the U.S. It didn't provide relief for consumers. It was $100 billion gift to the big corporations who have survived who didn't go out of business because of the tariffs. If you manage to still be in business, that tariff rebate has been a windfall for companies.
Well, there's a number of companies that's from Japan that apparently got an unusual boost because of the tariffs. And I wish that Toby was here, but they're saying that an unusual boost is showing up in some corporate earnings this summer, tariff refunds. And Nintendo became the latest beneficiary.
So some stuff has been great for companies, but the Americans are not companies. Americans are workers, so the oil company profits are the highest in history because of high gas prices because of the war. So a lot of Trump's shit has been great for shareholders.
And that's really what it was with Nintendo, because they said Nintendo reported a net profit of 147.4 billion Japanese yen, or $931 million for the quarter ending in June, up 54% from a year earlier, and handily beating analyst expectations of 77.8 billion yen and everything. But the tariff refunds were a major contributor. So the Kyoto-based maker of the Switch 2 said it recorded a 300 million tariff refund that had previously been recorded as a cost of sales. So apparently they did all right, and because of some stuff that was going on with the tariff. So they closed 5% higher on Friday following the results.
Yeah, but all these rebates and all these great corporate profits do nothing for people buying gas, buying groceries, seniors who got part of their Medicare Part D, a prescription drug supplement cut, the 7 million people who are driven off of SNAP, which is food benefits. Trump has been great for billionaires and corporations, but not for.
I'm sorry. Apparently, one of those billionaires said they're going to give the money back to the people, because Walmart, and we know that's a big company here in the U.S., says it expects to return its anticipated refunds to consumers through price reduction. So they're claiming they're going to reduce prices, while McCormick and Campbell's have said they would use proceeds to offset higher costs. So some of them are going to use for higher costs, and some of them, like Walmart, are saying that they're going to slash some of their prices, and that would be a benefit to the common man.
I mean, good for Walmart, I guess, but like a company like Apple that got a $2.2 billion rebate, they know who bought Apple products in the past 15 months. They could return money directly to consumers, but they will not.
Exactly. A lot of the companies won't. They'll use it for their own advantage and everything like that. I see we got Dr. Sharif. We're going to find out what's going on in Bangladesh. But I do have a question, because I know Bangladesh had a fashion industry, and this is for both of you, and it's based on a conversation I was having with one of my bus drivers yesterday. He was joking. Well, one of the jokes he had, you'll get a kick out of it. I know this is World Edition, and this is somewhat of a joke, but you've had some conversations around relationships, Rick, and everything like that. But he claims that his goal is to have a relationship with women in all the countries of the world, and he claims that he's halfway there. I doubt that very seriously, but that's what he claims, and all along those lines. But his other thing that he said is that one of his lady friends had given him a nickname, and he was thinking about turning it into a brand. Now, the brand could be.
Now, wait, who's saying all this? Who's saying all this? That he's banging the lady?
The bus driver, one of my bus drivers on my bus and everything like that. But he was also claiming that he is going to do a fashion line based on one of his lady friends' comments and everything. And he was saying he was going to create a line called the Big Monkey. And I was telling him that I remember lines that were popular, including some that had animal names. And I brought up alligator. I don't know if people still have alligator shirts, and I don't know if Bangladesh produces alligator shirts, but are alligators still popular? Because I remember there were some fashion lines like cross colors that aren't as popular as they used to be.
Yeah, Lacoste has the alligator.
Right.
And they still make the shirts. They're just not as popular as they were in the 80s.
That's what I thought. I thought that they weren't as popular, just like cross colors used to be a popular shirt as well. And I don't even know if cross colors is still around, but that was a popular brand that was around. Actually, to a young lady that went to work for them. But I think that they kind of lost their flavor as well. So my point that I was making to him was that some of these brands can be fly by night brands. They can only be popular for a brief time. That's the way I feel about alligator shirts, because I remember there was a time that people wore a lot of those, just like people used to wear polo a lot. And I don't know that people wear polo as much as they used to and everything like that. So I don't know if y'all have thought of polo as still being a popular brand. Is fashion still a big industry in Bangladesh, Dr. Sharif? Because I know y'all were a big textile business and all along those lines. So is textile still big, and what are some of the brands that are coming out of Bangladesh? That's the question I was going to ask you, because I know that at one point, I think that was like the cornerstone of your country, was the textile industry.
Your voice is scrambled.
Yeah, your voice is doing something weird. See if you can adjust it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm asking, like, you are talking about clothing brands of Bangladesh, or what's
Yes. The question is,
Yeah.
is textile still popular? And if so, what are the clothing brands that are coming out of Bangladesh?
Yeah, basically Bangladesh, like clothing brands not coming from Bangladesh. Basically, Bangladesh work for the largest brands from USA, from Europe's, like H&M, right? It's a big brand. So Bangladesh, what do Bangladesh actually producing these clothes for them? So the big corporation, what you are observing in North America, especially for the clothing industry, we are working for them. So Bangladesh do not producing the own brand. I want to say Bangladesh working for the big brand.
Gotcha.
That is the way our garments industry basically grow. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
But one thing I have concern right now, what I'm observing in India, because of artificial intelligence, many of the Indian governments I'm observing, they are training AI for swinging and everything. So it may be challenging for Bangladesh in the future, because Bangladesh has low cost labor. But if AI come to these garments industries for producing clothes and everything, what I'm observing it's happen in India, and it will be very challenging for Bangladesh in the future.
Okay, that makes sense and everything like that. Appreciate that. Hey, Rick, is there any other, and then I will get to some more news around the U.S. and everything like that, but is there any brands that you remember as being popular that are not popular anymore? Because like I said, I did mention Cross Colors, and of course I do.
I mean, when I was in the 80s, there was OP board, there was surfer wear, board shorts, the people wear big shorts now, right?
Right.
So tiny shorts were huge in the 80s. If you look at the NBA, and back then the ABA, which was joined the NBA eventually, the basketball shorts that guys wore were teeny, and they half the size of shorts worn now. I had work shorts that I would wear while bouncing an outdoor beer garden. They barely covered my butt and balls, and that was normal. So tiny shorts on both men and women. Knee socks, the socks that go to your knee, white tube socks with 3 stripes going around the top of the socks. I wore those all the time.
But that was the era of the Daisy Dukes as well, and we all know
that's what I'm talking about. The shorts that either barely covered your ass or didn't even cover your ass.
Yeah, because that was the Daisy Dukes and everything like that. Coming back to U.S. news, it looks like Todd Blanche is in trouble, because it looks like GOP Senator Lisa Murkowski is coming out against Todd Blanche, and it looks like there's a narrow path for his confirmation. So it looks like his Attorney General confirmation is now in doubt, as he is opposing his nomination. And apparently they're also saying that Susan Collins is kind of wavering as well. So definitely ought to be interesting to see whether he gets this job. I know you said he's
so it all hinges apparently on Senator Bill Cassidy, who's going to make an announcement about which way he is voting later today. Bill Cassidy has made noise like this before, and then gone ahead and voted with the Republicans and put some bad people, confirmed some bad people for their jobs, like RFK Jr. Bill Cassidy is a doctor. Bill Cassidy should have known better. Bill Cassidy says he regrets having voted for RFK Jr. Nonetheless, he did, and RFK Jr. is in charge of the CDC and is wrecking America's health via ridiculous science denial.
Well, speaking of people wrecking things, apparently Donald Trump also earlier today or recently signed an executive order targeting birthright citizenship and birth tourism. So
he can say all of that he wants. It's not constitutional. Also, birth tourism may add, I don't know, a few hundred to a couple thousand babies to the United States every year. It's not like a wave of foreign invasion. It's kind of like the trans shit. It's all designed to distract you from the stuff that seriously affects you. Trump, as I said, is the worst jobs president in 100 years since Herbert Hoover, who was president from 29 to 33. Herbert Hoover presided over the beginning of the Great Depression and made it worse by passing tariffs. Trump, an idiot, continues to believe in tariffs, even though they've been disastrous for us. But he will continue to try to distract from his terrible war decision, his continuing terrible tariff decisions with bullshit like birthright citizenship and trans issues.
Yeah, well, he's got another issue that he's out there going after, because apparently this gentleman is no spring chicken either. He wants to put Fauci in jail, and the Senate panel has voted to hold Fauci.
Yeah, Fauci was COVID began 6.5 years ago and had its worst 2 years more than 5 years ago. Fauci made announcements about public health, and he made some mistakes early on. He said, don't worry about wearing masks, because he says he was worried that there was going to be panic and a run on masks. Then he fairly quickly changed his tune on masks. And the idiot Republicans are trying to distract from what's going on now by going after Fauci for the events of 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But ICE just came out with a new crazy policy. I'd love to hear your thoughts around this, Rick, and if Dr. Sharif wants to jump in as well, that'd be cool. But ICE said it's going to release body camera video only when seen in the agency's best interest. Like they're really going to release a lot of film.
Well, so that is some crazy shit right there. That we know that ICE doesn't wear their body cameras. They got funding months and months ago for body cams. That money went unused for months because ICE doesn't want to wear body cams. They don't even want to show their faces, so you don't know who is arresting you. They don't wear name. I don't know. Do they wear name tag? I don't know. And now they're saying that they're going to release body cam footage now that they're being required to wear body cams only when it backs up their story.
Exactly.
ICE has been accused with other people's video showing that they lie. They say that people ram their officers with cars, and that's why the officers have to kill them. And then there's video footage showing that they're lying about that. And now ICE is saying, we will show you our body cam footage, but only if it backs up our version of the story. If it doesn't, then we won't show it. I don't know what kind of crazy crap that is. I mean, I do know what kind of, but that we would stand for that is nuts.
Well, there is some good news in terms of crazy crap and everything like that. But apparently, and I know that Trump is not happy because it's involving one of his people that he appointed, but they are saying that the judge has officially tossed the case accusing the ex-Olympian of criminally vandalizing the reflecting pool. So apparently this is not going well because Trump again has rebuked Janine Pereiro over the reflecting pool vandalism case and everything like that. So he really wants them to go after these folks and everything like that, but they don't really have a case, so the case has been dismissed and everything like that. But they were trying to get a case against an ex-Olympian saying that she was vandalizing the reflecting pool, which has had its own issues. And
So apparently, Janine Pirro, who's running her arm of the DOJ, or at least some prosecutions, looked at the evidence and realized that they had no case. That no prosecutor wants to take a case to trial and then lose at trial.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that. I'm sorry, I was just in the story, and this is a very ghoulish story coming out of Chicago, but apparently there were 57 decomposing bodies discovered at a far south side funeral home and everything like that. So apparently these bodies had been improperly stored and began decomposing at the Chicago funeral home. So the funeral home director had their license suspended after these bodies were found in deplorable conditions. I hope that this was not in a residential neighborhood or near a residential neighborhood, because I don't know how you could not avoid the smell of that if it was in that bad of a condition and everything like that. But I don't know that much about that part of Chicago or where it was in Chicago.
Yeah, all right. I don't know. I'm seeing if there's any. This is a dumb story. Trump's hair suddenly became full again a couple days ago.
So what did you do? Get implants?
No, I mean, I've got implants. These are all plugs. The whole front of my head is hair from the back of my head. They slice out a part of the back of your head where you have a lot of hair. Then they take it and they chop it into little chunks. Then they stab a bunch of holes into the front of your head, and then they plug the chunks from the back of your head into the front, and you grow hair. That's not what Trump had. Trump had a scalp reduction, which is a terrible idea. That's where they take your bald spot and they slice out a banana-shaped slice of your scalp, and they sew the sides together. It doesn't work. You go bald right where you were bald before, and now you have a nice scar down your bald spot.
That doesn't sound good and everything. I did see that Trump wanted a last-minute reprieve, temporarily blocking BBC access to his business records because they were trying to get access to the business records and everything like that. But the judge has paused the order for Trump to hand over the financial records to BBC. So
Trump is suing. Okay, the BBC in Britain, that's the British Broadcasting Corporation, ran a story on the January 6th, 2025 attack on the Capitol.
Right.
And they took 2 sound bites from Trump and jammed them together, even though he didn't say them at the same time, which made Trump look a little worse than he would have had they not done that. They apologized for doing that. I think a couple people got fired. Trump is suing them, the BBC, for billions of dollars, saying that they damaged him and his election chances in the U.S. But the deal that BBC is saying, prove it, because this report wasn't shown in the United States. So it didn't affect him with voters. And the BBC is saying, show us how it affected you economically, that somehow you lost some of your money because we ran this report that put together 2 sound bites and so Trump is kind of backing off and saying, well, I need a couple months to put my financial reports together. He's going to lose this trial because he's not going to be able to prove damages. BBC is fighting back, and they're going to require Trump to show how much he's worth, which Trump hates because Trump is constantly bullshitting about how rich he is. And also Trump has enriched himself to the tune of nearly $2 billion in the year and a half that he's been president.
Yeah, he's always been doing this, and it used to be the butt of jokes. I was actually watching a clip earlier today from an episode of A Different World where Trump appeared in that episode, and apparently he was one of the kids there was one of the featured characters was blaming Trump for some of the disasters that she was having and in her life, and then Trump's comic line was "People blame me for everything," or all along those lines.
Let's go back to his hair for just a second. If Trump is indeed wearing a hairpiece, that makes him the first president to wear a wig in more than 200 years, since James Monroe, our fifth president, who left office in 1825.
Yeah, because when did the Supreme Court justices stop wearing wigs? Wasn't that like?
I don't know. I don't know if they ever wore wigs.
Well, I know the ones in overseas in London did, but
I mean, they still have to wear these weird horsehair helmets
right.
in court in London. But I don't know what, that went away in the U.S. in the early 19th century.
Yeah, I thought it went away sometime like that and everything like that. I was watching sports yesterday, and sports has been in the news a lot as well, because I was actually watching the Hall of Fame game, which was not a defensive masterpiece because there was a lot of scoring back and forth, and Carolina actually won in the last second with a quarterback that snuck across the end zone with like 2 seconds to go and everything like that. So it was a fun game to watch. I think I caught the whole second half or most of the second half and all along those lines. But it was definitely a fun game. But now we've got the WNBA, and maybe Toby's got some thoughts around this, having this whole debate around whether you should be talking politics or not talking politics, because even the Fever's Caitlin Clark said, trust your gut when addressing political issues. And Megan Rapinoe is saying, are you serious? And she wants accountability from Sophie Cunningham. And Sophie Cunningham says she wants to put the focus back on basketball. What are we doing is what she's asking. But
all right, so Sophie Cunningham is a WNBA player who says that she doesn't want trans women. She's been pretty vocal about not wanting women who were born guys playing sports, as we've talked about endlessly. This is a tiny number of people are trans athletes. Like, the across all of NCAA collegiate sports, there are only 9, or as of 2 years ago, there were only 9 athletes out of 50,000 NCAA athletes. Only 4 of them weren't shitty. Only 4 of them had a chance to be competitive in their sport. And you can address issues like that on a case-by-case basis. Instead, Republicans want to throw up their arms and saying, the Democrats are transing America. This happened this morning in the news. Terrible jobs numbers. The U.S. jobs numbers showed a loss of 126,000 jobs over the past 3 months. That's what they're talking about on MSNBC, on CNN, and on Fox. Nothing about jobs. They're talking about the state of Texas has forced a hospital in Texas to open up a detransitioning center for teens who thought they were trans, but now they want to go back to their birth gender. So it's a distraction from real shit. I don't care. I think WNBA players should be able to express their opinions whichever way they feel about whatever issue. Caitlin Clark is comes across as a very serious person. Like, when she's always got a serious expression. She's very no nonsense. The WNBA tends to be friendly in that part of their appeal. They put up thirst traps. They try to be charming. And Caitlin Clark is like, just fucking forget that nonsense and play basketball. But it's all fine. And the WNBA plays great basketball. I've been watching them, and it's really expert basketball.
No, women's sports has been really good. I've been watching a couple of games, and apparently we've got a star player, even though they're only in seventh place, I think, right now. But even the women soccer has been very good because I've been watching a couple of those matches and everything like that. So I've definitely seen a few in the last couple of weeks, and they
Well,
are.
here's a crazy piece of trivia that nobody realizes. You were maybe told it once and then immediately forgot it. The WNBA ball is 3% smaller than the NBA ball
Okay.
because I guess women's hands on average are a little smaller. I don't know, but and I don't know why that makes sense. It's just a teeny bit smaller. Which I don't know, maybe when you're shooting 3-point shots, makes it a teeny bit easier.
Might make it easier, and like you said, their hands might be a little smaller. Some of them, but there's some women that have big hands as well. What are your thoughts around this notion of sports privatization? Because I see that FIFA executives, which is the soccer body, we just had the World Cup, were given an ultimatum to approve World Cup privatization plans, and it looks like Norway is calling for Infantino to resign, as Mexico and Argentina are backing that president, and it looks like Africa backs Infantino as CAF.
Well, I assume that the FIFA is the most powerful sports organization in the world. I can't, but they also have a long record of being very corrupt, that easily bought. Well, not easily. I'm sure it takes a lot of money to buy the FIFA executives, but they are amenable to bribes. Like the World Cup before this one, 2022, was in what, Qatar, right, Jacoby? And there's no way that it should have been in Qatar. Qatar is a hot ass country. You're playing soccer at the height of summer. Qatar is a Muslim country that had all sorts of rules against drinking, how women need to behave, stuff that is a way a lot of hundreds of people died working on this. They have like bad employment conditions. People died building the facilities for the World Cup. Just bad news, like hard to get to. Just bad news for as a place to play the World Cup.
But it's a horrible place to play the World Cup because of the weather and everything like that. But one of the stories I brought up before you got here, I don't think you heard it and everything like that. But Rick, your daughter is in the whole European area. I won't say where because I don't even know where, and it's not important and everything like that. But has she said anything about this whole notion of this standing rule? Because apparently it's a very big issue in the Commons where I guess there's a lot of bars that are crowded. So now they're trying to enforce that you can't stand in the bars and everything like that. So I don't know if she's been talking to you about that because they got this whole anti-standing law because I guess a lot of these bars are so crowded that they are not wanting people to be standing up and being hazardous.
This is happening in Europe?
It's in Europe, yes.
All right, so I worked in bars for 25 years at the door, and it was part of my job to make sure the bar didn't get that crowded because every few years there is when a bunch of people die in a fire, it's often in a bar or a nightclub. That you pack a club, then you set off fireworks. If you're a fucking idiot, then the ceiling tiles catch on fire. Then there's a stampede for the door. Then the doors get clogged. Nobody gets out. 50 people die. That's a legitimate concern.
And that's what apparently they're saying because the plan is to limit what they're calling the vertical drinking, which means that you're drinking while standing up. But apparently it's being decried by the pub landlords and some of the UK politicians. So like I said, it's becoming in front of the Westminster Council and it's some of the other governing bodies as well. So yeah, they want some of these popular places to limit how many people can stand because they're calling it vertical drinking.
All right. I mean, that's prohibiting people drinking while standing is ridiculous, but there's a happy medium where there are calculations for clubs, that's part of building code. It's like when you see the occupancy sign, that's based on taking the square footage and the number of exits and doing some math and figuring out, can people get out of the club if something happens within a reasonable amount of time. I don't know all the numbers, but you want at least like 6 square feet per person in a club. And yeah, if they want to enforce rules like that, it's based on a history of horrible disasters happening in clubs.
There have been some very serious, horrible disasters. There's no doubt about that and everything like that. Hey, Toby, really quickly, we were talking about earlier about Trump and everything like that, but Trump is saying the war can't go much later or longer and everything like that. So what's our take? Are we finally going to get an end to the war? Are we going to let the Strait be controlled with fees and everything like that? But apparently he's trying to do some sort of diplomatic stuff, but he's saying that the war can't go much longer. And even Fast Company, the magazine, is saying, will Trump risk being a loser to make a deal on the Strait of Hormuz and everything like that? So what's your take on what's going on with this Strait situation?
Just to jump back to women's basketball, it's a huge thing. The situation with the problem with what Sophie Cunningham was saying is because she got a lot. As soon as she said what she said, she became the MAGA Barbie. She got the UFC events and all this other stuff. And now she's starting to get a little bit of backlash and she thinks it's a distraction. Well, you answered the question and you brought it up and you jumped in the controversy. So she can't put the genie back in the bottle or the toothpaste back in the bottle after it's open. But either way, individuals when you have an influential stage and you have an influential stage, such as a Caitlin Clark, a Sophie Cunningham now, and others, people are going to ask you about your stance on particular things. And if people are going to use your name to commit acts of violence, the verbal violence, going after, saying racist things, death threats, and all this other stuff. And if you don't constantly stand up against that, then you're going to be placed in that box with all that other stuff. So she can't really just say, I want the glory, but I can't have this extra baggage. No, that comes along with being a influencer now. That's what you are.
However, like athletes, like a lot of other people, if they're dedicated to their sports and if they don't watch news, if they don't consult with people, somebody could ask you your opinion and you can say something, and because you don't know the landscape, you can say something that'll get your ass in trouble without it being particularly political. Now Sophie Cunningham is probably going to talk to her management team before she says anything again, because she got burned by saying, I don't know that I doubt that
the problem with Sophie Cunningham is she got all the fame for her antics. She's not a good she's a very average, if not below average. She's an average player. She's not a star. She's a seventh person on her bench. She's not a star. She got famous for actually hitting people in terms of, knocking people down, the antics with, the points and stuff like that. She became a MAGA Barbie. That's all. She averages less than 10 points a game. She barely gets any minutes. She's not that great of a player. She's sixth, seventh person on that team, if that. But the thing is that she became, quote unquote, the MAGA Barbie. Caitlin Clark brought in a lot of fans with her that, that are using Caitlin Clark's name as the Great White Hope. So,
but I mean, some WNBA players are better at social media, like A'ja Wilson. Is that how you say her name?
Yeah. So A'ja Wilson, I mean, even when she's asked about, particular things, she stands up and she stands on what she says. And if people using her name in a poor light, she at least stands up and fights back against that.
Right. But she's very aware of how to do messaging. She's either married to or her boyfriend is an NBA player.
Yeah, Bam, her boyfriend, and they're talking about marriage and everything else. Bam Adebayo. But the thing is, again, right now, the two controversial people are Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. And Sophie Cunningham she wants all this spotlight because, again, she's not that great of she's a sixth, seventh person. She's not going to get that fame.
Just really quickly, along those same lines, has the Indiana Fever, and I hate to make this comparison, become almost like, because you mentioned the Great White Hope, the Boston Celtics of the WNBA? Because it does seem like it has a larger white roster than some of the other teams.
No. Indiana Fever have two people that people have latched on to, Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark. There were a lot of fans that came in because of Caitlin Clark.
All right, but
Sophie Cunningham is now becoming the MAGA Barbie because she says this one thing.
She doesn't want to be. She doesn't want. She likes the attempt. But hold on, I want to talk about the NBA for 1 second and the talk. Everybody knows about the talk in black families where you sit your kid down and tell them how to behave around cops so they don't get shot by a nervous or asshole cop. There's also the talk when you're a rookie and you join the NBA. The veterans on your team are supposed to sit you down and tell you how to be on the road, including stuff like do not, if you have sex with a fan, use a condom and do not leave the condom behind because some people will want to get pregnant with your kid for the child support. So there's a whole talk of how to, that's just the sex part. I'm sure there's a part about, how to behave in public, what to say, what not to say. I don't know that the WNBA has a similar deal, but they probably should.
They do.
Okay.
Every athletics organization, every professional league has a quote unquote talk that you're trying to speak about. But again, there's a different light. What happened with the WNBA with the influx of fans that followed that one individual, and that influx came in seeing her in a different light. A lot of the controversies, like last night, Caitlin Clark flops a lot. She just does. And a lot of the controversies, people, when they see her flop that don't understand the game but are fans of that individual, want particular fouls called, which there really wasn't a foul, but they get adamant and outraged over these things. And these are the things that I'm talking about where Caitlin Clark can speak out against, but she doesn't, and she should. Yeah. Sophie Cunningham wants the fame because, again, she's just not a top-tier player. She's not even close. Yeah, but now because she's MAGA Barbie, MAGA wants to make her that way.
Yeah. We do have Steve here. Steve, how are you doing? I was seeing a story really quickly that it looks like Putin might be in some failing health and all along those lines. So you might be talking about that with Sasha later on and everything like that. But there's even some people that send their eerie pictures showing a gaunt-looking Putin, as experts are warning that Kremlin has no death plan should he be in bad health and everything like that. So don't know if that's one of the stories you're going to get to.
Real quickly, I got to get off. I got to get ready for the show. I got to go charge my phone. It's been a crazy week of work. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Ukraine, Iran. Real big news in the world today. There's been some rumors of a agreement on the floor, looking at opening up back the Strait of Hormuz. You probably already mentioned that. Trump's once again doing another executive order to bring back birthright citizenship, even though the Supreme Court knocked it down. And then there's the Houthis attacking in Yemen. Continued turbulence, and then still aftermath of the Democratic Socialists. With victory in Michigan, with the Senate race now being looked at, and of course AOC's numbers rising. She surpassed Newsom in some of the PPP polls I've had, and then those rumors rumbling. I'm bringing Andy Bashir here October 10th here. He's coming to North Carolina. We're doing an event for him. But rumors are that Kamala Harris will be announcing soon that she will be seeking the Democratic nomination for the presidency, along with Pete Buttigieg and a number of others. So
I think that's a mistake. It's still well more than 2 years until I think you just make yourself a target by announcing so early.
Yeah, but I think she does get in based on the name recognition and the fact that she's been the vice president. I think it does give her a huge advantage to win the primary. which will be interesting to see. So this is not good news for Bashir or anyone who wants to run. I think if Kamala gets in, she'll be the front runner, and they'll have to play catch up. But Bashir right now is at 3.5% in the polls. Newsom at 15, AOC at like 16, 17%, and then Harris about at like 40, hovering in the high 40s. So, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Well,
They all have to get better at sound bites.
Well,
One
that's what
thing
you're
that hurt Harris was that she couldn't give concise answers.
Right. She gave them what they call word salads and everything.
I'm
like
going to
that.
get ready for Ukraine, guys, but that's my wrap up. I'll be opening up probably on Monday or Tuesday, but now I'm doing war politics in this show. And then, of course, we've got Economics Monday with David M. Walker. So, Mark,
Right.
make sure you send out that link. And
Yeah, I'll send a link over the weekend and everything like that. But I did see that some of the AOC-backed candidates did win in Tennessee recently, so they won. I think in the last primary and everything like that. But there was
Can we talk for a sec about why the Strait of Hormuz needs to get opened? Why Trump is because the U.S. has a strategic petroleum reserve. These are giant salt caves in Texas and Louisiana that hold 500 million barrels of oil. They're now at their lowest levels in 35 years. And Trump can keep gas prices down a little bit by releasing oil from these giant reserves, but we're almost at the bottom of those reserves. And once we run out of those reserves, then the price of gas will jump up by 15 to 35 cents a gallon.
Yeah, that makes sense. What are you going to add, Toby? I don't know if it was on that story or another story.
Well, I mean, yeah, the strait has to open up for multiple reasons. Not only the fertilizer, the farming, and everything else. Strait, and honestly, the strait's probably going to open with a toll. The deal that they're working on is the deal Iran and Oman are talking, and yeah, there's probably going to be a toll now. So this free strait is now going to be tolled. So prices are going to jump regardless. This administration was horrible about that. And that's why I think one of the things that I'm not worried about the Democrat Socialists. DSA is the DSP or whatever, the Democratic Socialist Party. Why we keep trying to attack them when we're in the middle of a situation where you have the extremes that we ignore. That's what I'm just kind of fascinated one way, but frustrated another. Is the thing that we said that both of you guys jumped in and said is we have to work on messaging, but we're parroting the messaging that the Republican Party's doing, and not really even talking about what these guys are talking about. Because there was El Said, who just won in Michigan. People were talking about how, he wants to block funding for Israel. Well, that's not what he said. But we are stating the Republican Party talking line before they even say it. Because the talking point is that, he said this and he wants to attack. He never said that he did not want to send weapons to Israel. He said this. He said that why are we treating Israel any different than his messaging was, why are we treating Israel any different than we treat any other ally where we have actual we're not giving untethered defensive weapons to Ukraine. No, there are actual obligations that they have to uphold. Same thing with Egypt. Same thing with all the other places that we are allies giving weapons to. His point was, hey, why are we treating them differently where we don't have to have these obligations tied to them? So that's just an example of what I mean by we're just going ahead and saying what the Republicans are going to say before they say it, as if we're doing anything to help.
Yeah, we're front running the Republican messaging. And the key to the next 88 days until the midterms is the Republicans have nothing to run on.
Exactly.
And so it's all going to be bullshit from the Republicans. It's going to be Fauci. It's going to be trans athletes. It's going to be birthright citizen stuff that doesn't affect you economically day to day. Because if you look at the day to day economics right now, the Republicans have fucked it all up.
Yeah, but this is why it just confuses me. And again, I would love to have a long discussion with Steve about it, because Steve is an example of the Andy Bashir who's going to come on to his show or come and talk to him. And the first thing Andy Bashir is going to say, and the same thing is the same thing Steve says. And this is why the youth movement, and this is why those progressives and all the other people are so upset at the Democrat Party, because they want to say and do the same. They want to say and sound the same. They want to, we're not trying to upset anybody, so we're not going to stand 10 toes down on anything. We're just going to kind of give you that politician talk instead of, hey, this is what we stand for. This is what we're going to fight for. That's why El Sayed won. Because if you listen to the debates that those two had, and that's why the same thing with Mamdani. That's why Mamdani won.
Let me tell a horrible, horrible story about myself. 45 years ago, when I was like 21 years old, I went on a date with a girl. And we weren't clicking, she wasn't into me, I wasn't into her. And she said something like, we should have sex. And I'm like, I'm a dumb kid. I'm like, okay. And we had a little bit of sex, and it was bad. Neither of us was having a good time. It was just weird. And then, the date ended. And for like a long time afterwards, I'm like, what happened there? Why did we have sex when she didn't want to, but she offered sex? And the deal is, what I figured out is that girl, in her experience, had probably experience with coercive sex in the past, and she was front running the sex, just saying, let me get it, let me just throw it out there so we don't end up in a situation where I'm forced to have it. Because I was a dope, I didn't stop and say, but we're not into each other. Why would we do that? And the deal is, that's what the media is doing. What you talked about, Jacoby, is they front run the Republican bullshit. That they anticipate the shit that the Republic, they've been burned before by getting a bunch of shit from the Republicans, so they are going to front run the Republican messaging.
And that's the part that, again, like I said, that I just don't get. Like, why are we complaining about El Sayed when saying, well, El Sayed, he's for trans. He hadn't even talked about that. He's talking about affordable living. That Kamala Harris, the reason she lost was because she was for trans. She never even went out there and campaigned about it. Oh, well, the Democrat Party doesn't have anything to run. Well, we're not talking about these things because we're talking about what the Republicans are saying or what the Republican Party is going to put out there. We're not doing anything. What are we offering? We offered, the Democrat Party had the two policies when Trump and Kamala Harris were running. The two economic policies were out there. But instead of talking about those economic policies, hey, the Republican Party is going to say, Trump this and Trump. Tell me what you're going to do. That's where the base is.
Sophie, but isn't that part of the problem? Because that's even what I'm seeing, and I brought it up yesterday, and I think I might have even brought it up Wednesday, with the race between Whatley and Cooper, is that we're falling into that trap of getting into a competition. Because right now, if you watch those ads, it's a competition about who has done better in terms of their rules against people that were in prison and then came out and convicted another crime, because they're both having these kind of ads where they are making these comparisons.
Yeah, at some point. And see, that falls on deaf ears.
Right.
Because what ends up happening is, we're going to fall into the same, let's trust the Republican Party for crime. Why? Well, they're all for the Democrats, for Democrat socialists. They're going to be doing that. Who said that? And that's the thing, is that the pushback should not be, let me try and out this you. The pushback needs to be, I'm going to fact check you. Now, I'm going to tell you what I'm planning. I'm going to fact check you. This is what I'm doing. Did I say any of what you said? Then prove to me that's what I said. You're just sitting here lying. And just, why are we afraid to call somebody a liar? Why are we afraid to, what you're saying is wrong? That's just a complete lie. Oh, well, we don't want to offend anybody. No, if they're lying, they're lying. I'm tired of, that's the part where the youth and the base is. And this is, again, I love Steve to death, and I would love to have a discussion with Steve about it, because he's trying to have the ear of that party. No, if you really want to really stand on business and actually get people to convert, because your independents, they don't like the attacks. We don't need to attack. You don't need to attack. Tell them what you're here for. What are you offering? This is what I got. Now, if you want to sit here and tell me that I'm doing this, show me where I said that.
Yeah, well,
If you can't show me where I said that, then that's
messaging.
a lie.
Well, a lot of Dems just need to get behind. The Republicans have nothing to run on. When they talk about this shit, it's because they have nothing. And here's what we have.
Part of the other problem that exists, and I know exists because I've talked to Steve a couple times. I know you like to talk to him as well and everything, and hopefully we'll get a chance at our annual meeting for Pod TV and everything like that, is some people have been burned by their party. And it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans as well. And then they start having this notion of independence, or this notion that they can't trust their own party and everything like that. And I think personally that that's where Steve is, because he feels that he was burned in the last election that he was part of and everything like that. So that's where I think he's at, is that he feels burned. And whether that's correct or not correct, that's up for debate.
Steve was burned. Steve feels burned for the party because he didn't win. That's a politician. That's normal. But the thing is, if you're going to be a politician and talking to the people, and the people do feel burned, admit and tell them why they feel burned.
Right.
And then tell them, hey, look, you got to take them. In the past, this is what happened. And I'll admit this was stupid. I'm with you. I feel burned too. And I want to change that. Now, the best way to change that, these are the policies that I had before you. This is what I want to do for you. Now, if you disagree, let's discuss those. If you think I said something wrong, prove that I said something wrong, and then we'll discuss that too. But right now, this is what I got for you.
Yeah,
This
Kamala
person
Harris
all
had
this other
this.
crazy but they can't prove that I said that. They're
Yeah,
gonna lie to
Kamala
you.
Harris had like very specific stuff, like 50 grand to help with your down payment on your first home. And, she should have talked about that more. And then people should have asked, how are you going to make that happen? Sure, it sounds great. And then she would have had to come up with, because like Biden said, he was trying to get rid of student debt. A bunch of times he got rid of student debt, and then the Republicans took him to court and got his shit thrown out.
Yeah, and honestly, this is honestly with Obama, that's what he did. He talked about these things. He told you, this is what I'm doing. This is why we have to do this. Yeah, the reason student debt didn't go through is because the Republican Party pushed back. Let's be honest about it. Let's stop BSing in. Hey, we're going to work with both sides. And okay, we already understand that. I'm not an idiot. You have to get these things passed. Stop treating me like I'm an idiot. Tell me the truth. Okay, how are you going to get it through? Well, this is my offer, and this is what I'm going to try and do. I'm going to need your help to get this through. Why am I going to need your help? I'm going to need your vote here. I'm going to need your vote here. Why? Because this party right here is doing this. I get it. I can show you every date and time when they voted against it and why they voted against it. But right now, if we want to get stuff done, I need you to get behind me. I need you to get behind the people that I'm pointing out. And even if my people don't win, then hold me accountable, hold them accountable. And if you don't think I'm going to win.
If I'm hearing you correctly, Joey, you're saying that we need, and I was not necessarily a big fan of either of these gentlemen, but they did do some diplomacy with each other and all on those lines. But it sounds like you're saying we need more of that Tip O'Neill Reagan kind of alliances that used to exist way back when and everything like
Well,
that.
that's Congress, and we can fight for Congress and tell them, yes, this stuff has to happen. The only way that I can get bills through is if Congress is on board. Right. I'm going to push as hard as I can. Hold me accountable. I want you to hold Congress accountable too. If you think this congressman is not on board with what you want, and what we talked about and where we're headed, I'm going to put a pin up there. Hey, hold them accountable too. Don't sit here and blame just me.
Reagan and Obama had one thing in common. They had a very pleasing demeanor. They were very great communicators. They could get people to stop and listen for long enough to get their messaging across. I mean, Reagan was a famous actor. He knew how to just gently talk to America in a warm way. So did Obama. And
yep. And that's the thing is like, you've got to be honest. You've got to be authentic. Just tell me the truth. Don't sit here and blow smoke, because I can tell you when you're blowing smoke. And while you're blowing smoke, I'm gone. I'm just tuned out. I don't even care anymore.
Yeah, Bill Clinton, another great communicator. People loved him more after he got caught getting BJs in the Oval Office than before. They felt like he's our guy. He likes BJs. The Republicans were unfairly impeaching him because he got BJs.
Yeah. So and the thing is he sounded more authentic. Okay, I'm caught, so now I just got to talk. I got to be honest about it.
Well, initially he lied about it, but then he was like, and that was basic. But
So that's the thing is, until the Democrat Party gets over this idea that they've got to please every single person, you have to stand on business. Trump doesn't care about. Trump is now talking about digging up the sacred burial lands. He doesn't care about. He doesn't care about
that for a while. He's been talking about that in Dakota.
No, but he's already. That's what's going to happen now. He's already pulled the bill or did the executive order. I think it was. He didn't care about him. He didn't care about when he pulled DEI and knew people were going straight down the route of trying to get rid of. Right now, up under his administration, more black women have been fired than any time. He doesn't care. He didn't say anything about it. He don't care. He doesn't care about the money that he's pulled from Head Start programs or anything, all this stuff. He doesn't care. But what he's saying is he's saying it in this manner, and I'm going to do it manner. And that's what people, and that's where people have to realize people want to see action. We live in a world where it's you have that 5 seconds. If you're not doing it, I'm bored with it. I'm
so Trump, there's the assassination attempt. The Secret Service takes Trump to the ground. He pops back up. His ear is bloody. He puts his fist in the air and he says, "Fight, fight, fight." Now, this is a guy who avoided fighting. He got 5 deferments from the Vietnam War. But in that one moment, he won the election.
Yep. And then people don't, and that's where, again, like the Democrat Party doesn't want to admit that. They want to go try and come up with some grandiose thing. Maybe our policies, maybe all this. No, your policies will win it out. Your people, it's just that instance. People were so frustrated and they created a martyr out of this man. And that is what hooked his fan base and MAGA and all the. No, you just need to figure out a way to message better and stand 10 toes down. Honestly, when that happened, and the Democrat Party came out and apologized, we're so sad and so on and so forth. Great, now let's move to policy. You never turned the page after that happened. What they did, they went on this whole month to 2 month thing of, we must be calm and not talk about these things because this is what happened and we want to be sympathetic to this. No, we need to turn the page and keep on moving. We need to talk about what's happening. People, nobody talked about the fireman who lost his life. Nobody really cared about that.
Which is sad. The would-be assassin, he got off 7 or 8 shots. One of those shots killed a guy.
Yep. And you know what? Never talked about the fireman. Talked about the fireman one day.
Yeah, that guy, the guy who was killed is like an American hero. He was a fireman, a brave dude who just,
they talked about him one day. They turned the page and then it was all, hey, let's talk about this. That is what should have happened with the ear situation.
Yeah, and said God, the hand of providence, the hand of God saved Trump. And then on Twitter, people who didn't like Trump said, yeah, well, how come the hand of God killed that fireman?
Yep. But again, the news about the fireman disappeared in 1 to 2 days. That was it.
It was gone.
The news about his ear went on for 2 months and kept
Yeah, it
going.
was gone for a long time. But on that note, we got
Something going on.
I got to wrap it up and everything like that. So we've got the Ukraine show going on the other channel, but we're getting ready to get out of here, and I'll see y'all on Monday.
See you then. Thank you. Good weekend, everybody.
Good weekend.
Thanks, Mark.